All right, good afternoon. Let me call this meeting of the mayor and council for work session together to order. And I'm going to take a moment to recognize, you see this full room here, almost all these people are public works folks, led by I've heard him described as my pal Hal. And so I'm going to ask Hal to come up, and we are going to recognize National Public Works Week. I have a proclamation to read here. Hal, if you'd like to come up and make some remarks. Did I catch you off guard?
A little bit. So, thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
In your packet, you'll see that I prepared an agenda cover sheet here. The purpose of this presentation of proclamation is supporting the APWA's designation that May 21st through the 27th is National Public Works Week, to recognize the sacrifices our public works professionals make every day to help make our city the great city that it is. APWA is proud to announce the theme, Connecting the World Through Public Works, for the 2023 National Public Works Week. Public works is the thread that connects us all. No matter where we live in the world, every public works professional strives to improve the quality of life for the communities they serve, leading to healthier, happier communities. The Connecting the World Through Public Works theme highlights the way public works professionals connect us physically through infrastructure and inspirationally through service to their communities, whether as first responders or daily workers carrying out their duties with pride. Public works connectors help keep communities strong by providing an infrastructure of services. They are what make our communities great places to live and work. Please join us in celebrating the quiet work these professionals do that makes life better for us all. It's only been about a month and a half that I've had the pleasure to be here, and I can't tell you I'm more prouder to be part of the team that I have right now. I've watched them perform miracles on a daily basis, and I'm honored to serve with you guys. So
Wonderful.
I appreciate you.
All right, thank you, Hal. I'm going to, we have a proclamation here that has been signed by all of the council members except one, and that will be signed, I'm sure, as soon as she gets here. This is National Public Works Week proclamation for May 21 through 27, Connecting the World Through Public Works. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the city of Villa Rica. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and the solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the city of Villa Rica to gain knowledge of and to maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2023 marks the 63rd Annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association, be it now resolved, I, Gil McDougall, Mayor, do hereby designate the week May 21 through 27, 2023 as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. Please give these folks a round of applause for the hard work and dedication that they show every day. Hardly a day goes by that you aren't affected by the work that these folks do, and I appreciate the work that I see you all do, and I show up on your work site sometimes And I just applaud all the work that goes into to Public Works and how the work you've done here in this short time that you've been here to help build this team, I think has been tremendous, and I appreciate that. So I would urge everyone to thank these folks when you get a chance, because they're out there doing the work that keeps your water on and your streets clean and operable, and so give these folks another round of applause. Thank y'all. Would you all like to come up and have a photo? They're running.
You better not.
They're running as fast. All right, so everybody has to get up and come take a photo.
I'm gonna get behind Jerome. Ain't no way all this getting in this picture. No way.
Get together. Begin.
Elementary school class. All right, y'all gotta
Begin, guys. We want to get in a little bit closer. Come on up. Come in the front. Come in the front. Come in the front. In the front. This is basically an iPhone camera, y'all. So I mean, yeah. All right. So ready? 1, 2, 3. Stag. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, y'all.
Now we all run out the door. Now we all run out the door.
now we can go.
All right.
So mine was opening nothing else. We're trying to figure out the new devices.
Okay. Yeah. I think we'll all take a minute to figure out some of this stuff. Okay. I'm going to add an item to the work session here so that we can get this on the consent agenda. So this very first item, here's let me give a copy to each of the council members here. This is a recommendation for an appointment to the Carroll County Library Advisory Board. They have asked that we submit a letter of recommendation for Claudia Best to be reappointed. Here is the cover sheet. Would you pass one of those down? And here's one for you. And I'll just see if there are any questions on this. And if not, then I will ask if there are any objections to make this consent item number 1.
So what will it be? What's going to be on the agenda?
So this will be, we'll just add, well, let's just make it A5. And this is a recommendation to reappoint Claudia Best to the Carroll County Library Advisory Board. So I guess her term is expiring, and they need this recommendation before July the 11th. Are there any questions? Are there any objections to making this consent number 1? All right, hearing none, I will make A5 consent number 1. Okay, now let's move on to A2. This is the second reading home rule ordinance providing for board and commission terms. Mr. Macklin.
This is a proposed ordinance which will add to our charter, which will relate to all of the boards, commissions, authorities within the city. If you ask for a list of when the terms expire right now, they're all over the place, probably 20 different dates that terms expire. The purpose of this is to make all of the ending dates for all boards, commissions, and authorities to be December 31st of whatever year of the term that the term expires. That way you'll know at the beginning of the year it's time to reappoint people to all of those boards, commission, and authorities. It's been read once, has to be read twice. If we haven't done it, we need to advertise this in the newspaper in order to enact it, and that will then become a part of our new charter.
Has that advertisement been done? Does anybody know?
We probably have not.
Or is there any reason why that would disrupt this process by adding it now? This being the second reading, would it need to?
We probably need to advertise it before you formally vote on it.
Okay, but we'd be okay with this being the second reading?
Yes.
All right, so who would do that? Clerk?
I'll get together with Teresa and we'll coordinate on who's going to do it.
Okay. All right, is there any questions for David on this? This is the second reading of this home rule ordinance. I wasn't aware of the advertising piece. Ms. McPherson?
Not a question, but a clarification, because I remember now hearing a few things from a couple P&Z people that didn't totally understand. Right, we've changed this several times. I think it was even 3 years when there was 1 year renewable, there was 3 years. And the idea behind having it 2 is that we are in office, unless something changes for somebody, is 4 years. And so 3 years puts them where they're never coming up at the same time that a new council person would come on or a council person would get reelected. And if we do it every 2, then it'll be there on those years that council people either are reelected or renewed, and they'll match up because those are who the appointments are made by. And so I just want, is that clear? That doesn't happen if they're 3 years.
Well, it's not clear only from the standpoint that this particular change does not impact the Planning and Zoning Commission. They are separate. Their terms are set forth in the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
This is everybody but the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Everybody but, okay, all right.
And we passed
Thank
that.
you.
We passed that last month.
You either
It was
passed
part
it
of the
last month or it's coming up.
It's coming
I
up.
think it's
I
coming.
thought
I
it
don't
was
think you've
last month.
passed it yet.
Well, then maybe that's what they were commenting on
Yeah,
then.
I think it was.
Okay.
There is a specific ordinance that relates to planning and zoning that is a part of the zoning ordinance, and we have to change that in accordance with the zoning
Got
ordinance.
it. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
when we get down to C2, that one is, got some oddball end dates on it for one of the members.
All right, David, would you go ahead and get a little ahead of us and take a look at that before we get to it? Okay, are there any more questions on A2, which is the second reading of this home rule ordinance, change to the charter? Okay, is there any objection to making this consent number 2?
No.
Okay, let me go back and do item A1. I skipped the fact that this has a motion with it. Are there any objections to me making that one consent number 3?
Which one?
A1, National Public Works Week. So we signed that, but it still needs to be formally part of the record here.
Now, the other one you wanted to make consent, the home rule?
Yes.
But isn't that the one we still want the advertising done
Oh,
for?
sorry. That's right. That's right. So let me take that out. Let's make that consent. So, all right, A2 is just a reading, okay? So consent number 1 is going to be A5, and consent number 2 is going to be A1. I know that's confusing, but that's where we're at. Okay, let's move on to A3, setting the date for accepting applications for package stores. Mr. Mecklin.
All right. As you're aware, we have committed to 2 of our package store licenses in the city. We have 2 that are still available, roughly described as the north quadrant and the south quadrant of the city. This ordinance this resolution is going to set the dates for accepting applications for those 2 open licenses beginning next week, May the 15th, and the application period will run through July the 14th. We extended the period for filing applications a little bit longer than what we did on our first go-around, just because we found out that in order to get the surveys completed, which they are required to get, it's going to take a little bit of time to get a survey completed. So they've got about 2 months to apply.
Okay, so A3 is setting the dates of May 15th through July the 14th for applications to be submitted for the remaining quadrants that had not had successful applications in the first go-round. Is there any questions for David on this item? All right, if there are no questions, is there any objection to making that consent number 3? All right, that item will be consent number 3. Now, A4, this is the ballot for GMA's District 4 officers. This is a housekeeping item that we take up every year. David, are you doing this one as well?
No.
Who's doing this? Tom? All right, well, go ahead.
We receive a slate of candidates each year from GMA for approval for our district to have officers for the next year. This is as the mayor mentioned, an annual task. We're not obligated to do this, but I think it's good practice, and so you have a recommendation here to approve.
All right, are there any questions for Tom on this item? All right, Ms. McCoy.
I thought I read in the paper, and I might be getting my names confused, that Mike Johnson, the Temple mayor, he stepped down. Okay.
I had not heard
Maybe not. I thought it was for health reasons or something.
that. He did have a health concern. But
Yeah, he had an incident, but he hasn't resigned to my knowledge.
Okay. I was just curious when I saw that.
Okay, any other questions? All right, any objection to making that consent number 4?
None.
Okay. All right, B1, food truck vendor application, La Katrina Street Tacos. Is that you, Ron?
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you. I have an application I'm filling in for Nairi for La Katrina Street Tacos. They're looking at operating a mobile food truck at 451 Bankhead Highway, Suite 113, which is where they'd be actually preparing the food, and they would be utilizing the food truck in Douglasville at an address on Highway 5. As of right now, they're not looking to actually use the food truck within the city itself, according to their application at least. But they are looking to actually utilize it and have it at least licensed here, and possibly do special events in the future, though, through special events permits.
So I'm going to need some help.
Sure.
My understanding is that each time that there is an event to use the food truck, you have to come back before the council. What is this broader license? I'm not familiar with this.
And neither am I, being that I'm filling in.
Yeah,
but,
so do these folks, okay, well, who is? Because I want to know, are you required to have these food trucks? Are you required to have a license?
You are required to have a license if you're operating a food truck.
And then to each time come separately for its use? That's what this appears to be happening. I thought the license was on a per use basis.
That's not my understanding of it, but I'd have to defer to David.
Because I'll tell you, I haven't seen one of these come before us before like this, ever.
I think what you have to do is, if there's a special event like Gold Rush or July the 3rd where we're inviting in all sorts of food vendors, you don't have to have a special license for that. If you want to set up on the side of the road here and you're going to do that every Tuesday at 5 o'clock, you got to have a license to do that.
So, but what you're saying is they don't intend to do that right now. This is just,
From my discussion with the gentleman this morning, he's looking for an address right now. He's thinking about even possibly using the address that he has, but until that time, until he's certain, he did not want to put an address down because he does not have the intention of utilizing anything or any sort of space here in the city for this license.
It almost sounds like he's asking for a business license to operate a business here in the city.
but you don't intend to operate the business here, is what he's saying.
Well, he is. He's going to prepare the food here, from what I heard Ron
Right,
say.
correct. And place it
Oh.
in the truck essentially, and be able to
To
load it
take
up
to
and
Douglasville
take
to
to
sell.
Douglasville.
Oh, see, I didn't understand. I heard you say that about about here, but for some reason, in my mind, I was thinking that they were going to prepare it somewhere and bring it here to just interesting.
Vice
Okay.
versa.
Well, then maybe that's a horse of a different color. All right, Matthew.
I mean, I think that may have got, because I was confused of what was the purpose of the 451 Bankhead Highway, but that's just a kitchen, basically. It sounds like he's going to do it. So does he really even need a permit whatsoever then?
He does need a permit, but he doesn't need to come to the council, to the council to get it. I mean, that's just a staff issuing a business permit.
Okay.
Yeah, he has a business license from my discussion with Nairi this morning, so he also put in for the mobile food truck.
I think it's confusing because we do restrict food trucks here. You can't just pull a food truck in,
But
you know,
if all he's
drop it
doing
in
is,
Butterballs and go open up for business.
but if all he's doing is loading and unloading the food truck here, and he's actually not doing any sales out of the food truck, then I don't
Yeah, that
think
seems
that's
like
part.
this would be valid for. He'd be asking Douglasville for this. He's going to prepare
Right.
it here, but wherever you sell it is
I
where
agree.
you.
I agree with you. I believe that is his intent to also be filing in Douglasville as well.
Did he
Could
pay
we-
a fee for this?
I'm not sure. I'd have to check with Nairi.
Could we maybe table this until,
Well, let me see.
just to give them
What
time to
is
figure
your-
it out?
What's your thought here? Is this something we should take some action on, or is there any time limit that you know of? Is there any urgency?
I would think so.
Not sure.
Because
again, I have to-
tabling anything today is going to be July before we
Right.
get to it.
I did actually
I wanna
mention
be
that to the
sure.
gentleman as well. He didn't seem like he was in a rush to actually get it done or get it right away tonight. But he will be here tonight if there are some questions. He did want to make sure.
From the way it sounds to me right now,
Mm-hmm.
you don't even need to be here to do this. So he could take care of this outside of this venue.
Okay.
Great. Am I
I
right, David?
think that's right.
We can leave it on
Let
the
me just
agenda for
table it.
tonight.
Okay,
Let
yeah,
us
yeah.
just table
That's
it.
fine.
And if he needs to be here for some reason, then you can bring it back in July.
Sure.
Is that
Why-
okay?
Why,
That
why
sounds
do
fine.
we not wait till tonight to table it?
Well, we could do that, but I'm just talking
Maybe-
about moving on in the discussion right now. There's no tabling at this
Like,
moment.
don't put it on consent.
Of course
and then-
not.
And then maybe he'll straighten us out tonight.
Yeah, we're not going to do anything with it, but that's what we'll end up doing, I think, unless something changes between now and then. There'll be no action here
Okay.
because we don't vote
That's
until tonight.
Okay.
But, Ms. McPherson?
Okay, so when I was doing my homework, I did call Nairi on this, and I got none of that clarification. The main reason I had called is because it said the vending location and time of operation was in Douglasville. And I was trying to figure out why there's a brick and mortar here that was related to the business, but that it said the location of the vending would be there. I go, well, wouldn't it have to be there? And it never was clear. So maybe by this evening, we can get some more clarity. And the only other little housekeeping I saw, because it appears to be our document, City of Villa Rica Food Truck Vendor, we need to spell license correctly on the application. That does not reflect well on us. if you'll make a notation for Nairi or whatever, somebody needs to go in and fix that so we have the spelling correct, but
Now,
that's
that's
just how.
Danny's job to catch spelling.
Well,
which
look,
I haven't
you
heard in a
couldn't miss
long
it because
time.
it got corrected by somebody on what we
There you
got,
go.
but
Got
the
you.
printout didn't have it. Yeah,
All
by
right.
hand.
Anybody else got anything on this? All right. So, yeah, we'll take this up tonight either by tabling it or we'll take some action if something occurs between now and tonight that you need to bring to our attention. That'd be fine. As to B2, you're also asking. I believe the applicant has asked for this one not to be considered today. Correct?
Yeah, so the applicant for this one is looking to go back to the Planning Commission. They had some new information that's been submitted. This is an application that has been carried by the City Council for the last 2 months on their behalf. And it's obviously prudent for them to go back through our Planning Commission process if we have new information that's been submitted.
So you'll
For
be asking for
consideration.
this to be tabled, but at the request of the applicant tonight.
Yes.
Okay.
Request to go back to the Planning Commission.
All right. Request to go back to the Planning
Yes.
Commission. So that's not tabling it. You want to send it back
So you would need a
Yes.
to
motion.
planning. All right. But that'll be tonight. Okay. All right. Let's go to B3, VA-01-23, variance from section 9.144 of the Villa Rica sign ordinance. There'll be a public hearing on this item tonight, so I'm going to ask you to briefly introduce it, and we'll see if there are any questions, knowing that we'll take this into a public hearing tonight.
Sure. So this application is from Pilot for their billboard sign that they have on Edge Road and Liberty Road. They're requesting a variance from 9.14 subsection 4 of the sign ordinance, which prohibits changes in the shape or size of non-conforming signs unless they are made to comply with all requirements of the zoning ordinance or the sign ordinance. And the applicant is proposing to keep the height of the sign the same. It reduced the dimensions of the subway sign and gasoline digital pricer and add a Dunkin' Express sign as well, so that is increasing the nonconformity or making changes to the nonconformity rather. So they are looking for approval of that. So the staff is recommending denial, being that the variances are self-imposed.
Okay, council, do you have any questions for Ron at this point, knowing that there'll be a public hearing tonight? All right,
I'll just wait.
hearing none.
Wait a minute.
Yes, sir.
You just
Oh,
didn't
Mr.
want-
Carter, sorry. Well, I didn't hear any.
Oh, you want to hear one? Okay.
Well, I don't necessarily want
So-
to, but I didn't hear any. Go
Ron,
ahead.
is it they're trying to add signs to their, below their signs? Is that what they're trying to do? It looked to me like when I was going through it, they're trying to add Subway and,
Yep. So they're going to be adding the Dunkin' Express sign onto the billboard, and they'll be reducing the size of the Subway sign and the gasoline digital pricer. And I believe, let's see, and they're keeping the overall height the same. So that's actually the formal issue here is the height staying
so
the same.
since they're changing their sign, they have to go to the current regulations, and that's what,
Right, because they're not
The
bringing
dial
it
is
into
based on-
conformance.
okay.
So essentially, they have a legally non-conforming use now. That's the tallest sign there that we have, and it's non-conforming. And what they want to go to would be a non-conforming sign as well.
And
All right,
the
any
zoning
other-
ordinance requires them that if you make changes to it, you have to bring your non-conformance in conformance, and they don't want to do that.
They don't want to do that. That's right. All right. Anybody else? Okay. We'll take this up tonight. Let's do B4, VA-02-23, variance from sections 7.056A and section 8.094A of the Villa Rica zoning ordinance. There'll be a public hearing on this item as well. Go ahead, Ron.
All right, so MQSK is looking for 2 variances from those aforementioned sections of the ordinance. This is to install a drive-through for a quick service restaurant in the front yard area, which we currently don't allow, and a reduction of the required landscape buffer from 20 feet to 2 feet. So the staff is recommending denial for both of these variances because they are self-imposed.
Okay, just briefly describe where this location is, just to
Sure,
remind the council what we're talking about?
Yeah, so this is on the corner of Dogwood Street and West Bankhead Highway. This is the ice machine lot, as it's commonly called.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Ron, knowing that there will be a public hearing tonight?
So I
It's
did
a
have
lovely
a
lot.
question.
It's a difficult lot. Yes, sir. Mr.
So,
Monahan.
Ron, and from what I understand, if their proposed drive-through layout is accepted, it is possible that the drive-through could back up into US 78.
Yeah, it's a possibility that the exit of the drive-through would be at an angle coming out with cars entering on 78 or from 78.
So, to your knowledge, would they have to get GDOT approval for that kind of ingress egress, or?
Only for ingress and egress onto the lot. I believe they have been cleared by GDOT already
Hey,
for
Ron,
the.
would you get just a little closer
Sure,
to the
sure.
mic?
Sorry about that. So I believe that they already have that clearance from them, being that they have existing curb cuts already there. But not for the drive-through.
So if it, I guess what I'm saying, if there is so even GDOT wouldn't have any kind of opinion about how kind of this drive-through and the way it exits or anything like that, or they?
GDOT usually doesn't get involved. I don't think I've ever seen a time where they would get involved on a private site and what's happening on the site. Their interest is the actual public roadways, especially if they're their roadways.
Right. Well, I guess my understanding was that the way it exits onto their roadway would pose a problem, but I guess that was my understanding.
Yeah,
that
I
maybe-
did highlight in my report that there were some staff concerns to that.
Okay.
That's something that I would have to work out with the engineer, but all stacking spaces for the drive-through would need to be on site and in a compliant location. And that what they're applying for is not a compliant location.
Okay. I think that was the word I was looking for, stacking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Anybody
Thank you.
else? Tom?
If you can picture the front of Baines Building, that was a GDOT required lane
Right.
that was added. So I anticipate something similar here. And the question is, can they put a curb cut that close to the corner, to the intersection?
Mm-hmm.
But all that would have to be approved by GDOT. I don't know. And there is a stacking issue. It was
It is,
five out of six. So we require a 6-space queuing lane, and they only have room for 5. So
Which
I mean,
think
there are
is
definitely issues with this.
is really going to your point about the traffic concerns entering and exiting the property, which, I think it'd be hard for me to imagine that GDOT would not have a concern with that, but that's not really the question we're dealing with here.
I guess, yeah, what I was trying to get to is like, even if we approve this, will GDOT review this also for any kind of effect it has on 78? Or has GDOT already blessed this? I guess they're kind of proposal. I just didn't know. But it sounds like from what Ron's saying is GDOT is not going to address it either way.
not a drive-through exiting. They're looking at the overall broad entrance and exit onto the site
Okay.
for all uses on the site.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, let's take this up tonight, but my memory is that the staff recommended denial on this. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. This has a public hearing, so we'll take this up tonight. Let's do B5 CU-01-23 special exception use permit to operate a truck parking facility. This item will also have a public hearing. Tell us where this is, Ron, and then introduce it.
Sure. So this is on the northwest corner of Highway 101 and West Industrial Court. This is across from ICR, and Wayne Dewell's property. So this is a request for a special exception permit, to operate a truck parking facility. This truck parking facility would be a gated facility for controlled access. I have had some discussions as recently as this morning from the applicant, and they wanted to just reiterate that they're looking to have monthly parking here. So it would be a facility where there would be some long-term parking and some trailers as well that would be parked there. So not just semis, but just sometimes trailers and a mix of both. But he will be here tonight to give some more information on that. We are recommending denial for the special exception because of the traffic, some traffic concerns that we do have at that intersection that's not signalized. The only control that we have there is a two-way stop sign. So not really sure if that's adequate or not, but they would need to still send us the traffic, anything that's required for traffic from the city's engineer.
So let me ask you two questions on this. Are they proposing to pave this?
Only partially.
So partial pave. That's why when I asked you about that, you said no, but I read in the staff report that he is proposing to pave it. So it's a partial pave.
It's the first, if I'm not mistaken, it may be the first 30 or so feet from West Industrial Court only. So the vast majority of the lot is unpaved.
Okay. How many trucks do they propose to be able to park on this site?
They have not indicated.
Okay. All right. Council, do you have any questions? Yes.
I mean,
We'll have a public hearing.
their proposal says that the lot will be developed, neatly paved, fence, floodlight. So it doesn't say
Partial.
only 30 feet or partially.
Yeah.
So
Which is why I needed that clarification. So be prepared. We'll get some clarification on that tonight. All right. Anybody else on this item? Okay. This item will have a public hearing tonight. Let's move on to B6, RA-01-23, rezoning of 45.26 acres at Punkintown Road and Dallas Highway. This item will also have a public hearing tonight. Ron, would you orient us to where this is and then briefly introduce
Yes. So this is located the northernmost point of Punkintown Road, east of Punkintown Road, south of Dallas Highway, west of Stockmar Road. This applicant, Arpit Realty LLC, is looking for a rezoning from AG, single-family agricultural, to commercial low-density C1, and also single-family attached SFA. They're looking to reparcel these lots and add a age 55 and up 120 unit townhouse proposal and a small commercial center to the project. The staff is the Planning Commission did review this. It was denied 4-0 by the Planning Commission. There was several different, various different concerns with the project. The staff is looking or recommending an approval with conditions, and the reasons is because the rezoning would provide for some more commercial growth on Punkintown and Dallas Highway, and would advance the different housing choices for seniors in the community. So that is a main goal of the current comprehensive plan.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on this item? Mr. Moptahan?
So Ron, I think when this went through planning and zoning, it looks like since this went through planning and zoning, the developer applicant has submitted an updated site plan. I'm looking in our packet.
They submitted one with a little more detail, yes. That was one of the
Okay.
comments from the Planning Commission meeting.
And this is available on the city's website?
Yes, sir.
Probably through I would assume. I think that was kind of my biggest issue, was that I think we had emailed about this, is that it looked like our site plan requirements for zoning were kind of paltry compared to others, and I think you've kind of informed me, and I don't put words in your mouth, but that you're looking at kind of increasing those requirements to kind of, but this is much more, what we're much more familiar with, so I appreciate you working with the applicant developer on getting that supplemented. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Ms. McPherson?
My comments will be related to maybe it will help us get a little bit more information if it can be provided this evening for us, because there seems to be moving parts. If there's a tad, it's one way. If there's not a tad, it's a different way. There's going to be some area of this property related to this that might have a fire station. Well, no, it's not going to have a fire station, but then there's something to do with a roundabout and who's paying for it. But we don't know where the roundabout is going because we haven't seen a new drawing of any design for Punkintown Road with the roundabout, but it all seems to be associated with this development. So anything additional we can get on that will be helpful because it seems like we have a lot of unknowns or just moving parts on this. Like you think you know it, but then it's changed, and I think we need to get a full picture of the context of what we're looking at with this development. If that will help for tonight with some of the questions that will come up. Okay, thanks.
All right, Mr. Carter.
Okay, Ron, I'm looking at the diagram they gave us showing the road joining the roundabout for the north bypass.
Yes, sir.
Who will, is that up to the state to redesign that roundabout if we add a leg to it? Who designs that roundabout?
I just want to confirm, are you referring to the one on Dallas Highway or the?
On Dallas Highway, the main roundabout for the north bypass. It looks like this runs into that, and that roundabout will have to be redesigned.
Yeah, I'd have to actually reach out to Bobby and find out. I would assume that the developer would have some sort of a contribution to it, but no.
All right, go ahead, Tom.
I guess the question,
The
the main
roundabout's
question,
gonna get built by GDOT and designed by GDOT.
are they going, if we approve this, are they going to add this leg into it? Because this leg doesn't exist on the current design.
Yeah, there's a stub on that side in the GDOT design.
There is a stub out.
Yeah, they own, if you look at that drawing, the parcel below the roundabout is GDOT's. So GDOT already owns that land. So they've already designed it with a stub to the south, yeah, right there,
Yeah.
right.
That's what's being shown is current right of way.
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this would not affect our north bypass construction. It wouldn't, they would go through that process and keep on working on the north bypass. Okay. I just want to make sure we didn't kill the north bypass adding something.
Okay, anybody else? Okay. This has a public hearing tonight, so we'll take it up tonight. Let's go to B8. Am I right? Hold on. No. Okay, B7. I got handwriting all over this thing. B7, RA-04-23, 974 Dallas Highway, rezoning from single-family agriculture, which is AG, to commercial low-density C1. There'll also be a public hearing on this item. Ron, tell us where this is and then introduce the item.
Sure. So this is on 974 Dallas Highway, which is north of Dallas Highway, directly adjacent to the new Dollar General store that was constructed back in 21. The applicant is looking to rezone from single-family agricultural to commercial low-density C1, and that's in order to construct a convenience store and gas station on the parcel. So the staff, the Planning Commission, rather, voted 3-1 to approve the application. They did want to modify one of the conditions, or the only condition, to add an additional easement for entrance and exit to the lot to the direct east of the parcel. So we already had as a condition for the west part of the parcel to be aligned with the Dollar General's easement that's there, but that they wanted to also do the same for the other side of the property as well for when that one develops, which I think is smart.
All right, is there any questions for Ron?
Has-
Mr. Momtahan.
Has the applicant, do you know, and we'll talk to the applicant obviously tonight, but I mean, in your conversations with the applicant, have they considered kind of like the traffic impact of having a driveway so close to that roundabout and in between these roundabouts, and possibly maybe only obtaining or getting ingress egress through the interconnected or the interparcel connectivity with the Dollar General, or maybe the bypass on the other side?
Yep, so we did talk to the applicant about, during the pre-submittal meeting, about access onto the roadway, but mostly between the parcels. Being that the bypass is not directly on the corner with this parcel, there's another one in between. That did give us some pause. But however, they currently have a driveway on that exits out onto Dallas Highway. So I don't know of any way that that driveway can be removed or taken away if it's already there.
I see. And so that was kind of my next question, which kind of was very similar to what we were talking about on the 78 parcel. I mean, since they have a driveway, and that's a good piece of information, since they have a driveway there, would GDOT need to issue a new driveway permit for this development? I mean, I don't know if the current driveway is 36 feet like this one is.
I'd have to ask the city engineer and get back to
Okay.
you.
You good? Okay.
thank
Mr.
you.
Carter. Oh, I thought you raised your hand. Ms. McPherson.
Okay, so maybe this will help us for tonight, because I don't care about asking a lot of questions now, since usually there's more people. Will the applicant be here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so here's my big two concerns. Well, number one, when we're looking at the site plan, and I guess they only get updated so often, it's not helpful when what's sitting next to this lot is still an old house rather than the Dollar General, and there's
Right.
no traffic circle or anything. So looking at the site plan, I'm going, but that's not really what's there right now. But the biggest thing I'm concerned about, and we got to hear from somebody who knows more than us about how traffic is going to move, because I'm trying to figure out, and I need it demonstrated, how vehicles are going to get in and out of there. I understand they can go over to Dollar General, maybe to Harrell, that close to the roundabout. And is it going to be crazy? And somebody needs to be able to explain that. It's really close to that roundabout.
All right. Anybody else? Okay, so this item does have a public hearing, so it will be discussed much further tonight.
Oh, Mayor?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
To me, this is gives it a little bit of nuance, though, and I wasn't necessarily thinking about this the whole time. Traffic will change to some degree there when the bypass is done. So I understand everybody that's coming down Dallas won't hit that. But I think it's still got a complication. So I'm trying to think, well, down the future, it'll make a little difference, when the bypass is done, but.
Yeah, I mean, I would have concerns about anybody trying to make a left turn on a 61 out of this gas station with two roundabouts just constantly flowing traffic.
I guess they'd go down to Harrell, which is still going to be a problem. I don't know how Harrell's getting it. I mean, Harrell
Yeah.
has a hard time getting out now.
I mean, it's almost like if they have any kind of, if we permit them to have any kind of access off 61, or if GDOT doesn't have an opinion on it, then we would maybe want to discuss requiring them to do a right in, right out only, where you turn right in, right out, and you can't make a left turn, because that, I don't see how that can even be feasible with traffic
But that's why
constantly
you
flowing.
need someone like a traffic engineer who can demonstrate what the deal is here. And I don't know if we can ask anyone from GDOT. That's why
Yeah.
maybe before tonight, if we can get any other information or anybody on staff that has a little bit more of a feel on how those vehicles are supposed to move.
All right. Ms. McCoy.
Okay, maybe I'm oversimplifying this, but, okay, for instance, on Highway 61 going to Carrollton, there's by Midway, there's that BP that's on. When I'm going toward Carrollton, I never stop at that BP because it's hard to get in and out. But when I'm coming back from Carrollton, I always stop there because it's the most convenient. I don't see the logic of putting a gas station if there's going to be two roundabouts and no good way to get in and out. Because to me, like in the BP by Mirror Lake, I go there because it's easier to get in and out of than the Pilot or the Chevron. And I'll pay 2 cents a gallon extra for it. But I don't see the logic in this from the developer standpoint.
And to your point, Councilwoman McCoy, that BP you're referring to that goes on the way to Carrollton, you're not going to have people that are going to contraflow traffic because there's a divided median there. Here, you're going to have people who are going to attempt to go contraflow traffic because there's not a divided median, and I just think it's a traffic nightmare.
Correct, but I don't see it being, how, I'm trying to think of my words real quick. I don't know, I just don't see it being a very logical, idea to put a gas station there. For a gas station, you want something that's easy to go in, whether it's one way, it's easy to go in and out of, but this doesn't seem like it's going to be easy to go in and out of, and I don't want to see like an empty gas station in Villa Rica. That's my point.
All right. Anybody else?
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Carter.
It appears to me if you put something like this close to that roundabout, it's going to mess up the roundabout flow of traffic. They need a frontage road or something that will get them away from that roundabout.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
All right. Yes. Who? Oh, Ms. McCoy.
All right, I'm sorry. I have to be blunt. This is just stupid, okay? This is dumb putting a gas station here. It's not going to be easy to get in and out. We don't know where the bypass is going, and if we do the leg like it was established and GDOT does the other roundabout, nobody is going to go by it. And then it's going to be out of business, and it's going to be another empty building in Villa Rica. Anyway, I just wanted to get my point across. That's all. Bye.
Did somebody get her a water?
I can get you another one.
She needs a
Got
water.
extra here.
Okay. All right, we're going to do this tonight. All
Thank
right?
you.
There'll be a public hearing on this. All right, let's move on. Woo! Let's move on to B8, Powell Park flooring replacement. Who's doing this? Nick. Come on up here, Nick.
Afternoon.
Can you move traffic in and out of there when you're?
I cannot, no ma'am. I can get the
You
Powell
just
Park
stick,
floor
you
replaced.
stick with the floor and we'll go from there.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
This is a budgeted item. Partially, we have $15,000 budgeted to replace this floor. This current amount is $1,563.18 over that budget. And if approved, we propose that it would come out of the Building and Project M&R fund. We did get 3 bids. Initially, I only had 2, but I got one that strolled in late. Went ahead and added that. I think you guys have the updated cover sheet. Regardless, the lower bidder stayed the same. One of the companies that we engaged with for a quote wanted to quote labor only, so that's why it's the odd format there. But bidding apples to apples or comparing apples to apples, Sealy Ventures with 5-star flooring came in at the low bid for $16,563.18. The history with Powell Park is we've currently got carpet on one side and really thin laminate flooring plank on the other side. It's starting to bow up. There's concrete subfloor there, so we're proposing to install some glue down LVT, about a 20 mil surface wear area, so it'll last for a very long time.
Just answered my only question.
Yes, ma'am. Trying to maintain and keep these facilities in order. That's essentially the gist of it. We're looking to go with Sealy Adventures with your approval.
Okay, so the amount over budget, though, is $1,563.
That's correct.
18 cents. All right, Mr. Carter.
Okay. Why are these bids, what was the RFP? Was it for labor only, labor and our materials?
No,
I don't get why they are so different. One
Well-
of them bid labor only and bid labor and material.
Just one company that we asked a quote for wanted to only bid for labor only and asked the city to furnish the material. But still comparing apples to apples, if we were only to compare labor pricing, Sealy Ventures still came in lower
Yeah.
than the initial. But that was the reasoning that I made that format is one company only wanted to bid for labor. And we engage with some companies that way. You know, sometimes, just like with the V-Flex shelter, sometimes it's cheaper for the city to furnish the material and just bid out labor.
So your RFP did say and with or without material. That's the way it went.
There was no formal RFP. We just reached out
Oh, okay.
with personal
Verbally,
references.
you told them we might supply the material.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you received 3 bids. One of them, though, was labor only. So you manually, for lack of a better word, went back and just took apart the materials and labor from the other two bids so that you could show an apples-to-apples comparison.
That's correct.
Okay.
Each proposal came in with an itemized statement, which we ask all contractors to do, to itemize their proposals so we can look back at it, see what we're getting charged for, what we would be getting charged for. Which you can see there, we got materials there. Right below that is the labor. So, and
Is
that,
it-
Have we used Sealy Ventures before?
I have not. I've actually gotten a quote from them, but they've got great reviews, and they're actually part of a conglomerate, that 5-star, they're doing business as 5-star flooring. I don't know their entire relationship, but they had good reviews, and I'm excited to possibly put them on some other jobs.
I think in this case, it would have been a little bit, I don't know that you didn't do this, okay? I
Sure.
certainly would not be doing it because it's outside of my lane, but it would have probably been a little helpful to this bid process if you would have gone back to Blue Line and said, hey, could you guys try to do this with materials? Because they're really close on the labor.
They are.
But the footprints is way out. I
Way
mean,
out.
They're
Yes, sir.
way out.
And
So
he told me straight up, because I have, we have these general contractors that, they prefer to do certain types of work. Like Blue Line will actually be doing the installation for the V-Plex shelter. Blue Line Outdoors, they want to be outside.
Okay.
And so I'm not, saying anything he hadn't told me, but I did ask him, hey, give me your best price. I want to look at it. And,
all right. So he didn't want to do a lot of work on the
No,
materials.
not
Sorry,
really.
Mr. Carter. Go ahead.
Okay. This material cost, this you did an estimate, is that pretty much in line with what it ought to be?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Probably be a little bit more for the city to furnish it.
But we don't pay taxes, so it's still gonna cost us more.
It would probably be just a little bit more, yeah.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Is there any objection to making this consent number? Is it 5? All right. Consent number 5. Okay. Thank you, Nick.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's do C1, downtown gateway and directional signage. This is an update, information only. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Go ahead.
Okay, my first item is to give you all an update on the downtown gateway and directional signage. This was a project that began in 2017 by the Downtown Development Authority and was a part of the Downtown Master Plan, the RSVP. The appeal of the corridors leading to downtown was one of the top issues expressed by our citizens that were surveyed. So the DDA at that time solicited proposals from qualified companies for the project for a particular design that staff picked out, and the company that's called ACSM bid was approved by the DDA for $76,372. They came in as the lowest qualified builder. They're located in Charlotte, North Carolina. There were 4 property sites chosen for the gateway signage. Norfolk Southern and Tom Large had signed their lease agreements, and in the meantime, the company began designing these gateway signs, but was put on hold due to issues with 2 of the landowners at that time. However, as of March 2023, those issues have been resolved and the project can move forward. And because the design of the signage was over 4 years old, staff revisited the original design and recommended revision of that design. So we met with ACSM and gave them our ideas, and based on the city's history, they came back with multiple markup samples. But then we have decided that the final design will be chosen after the rebranding of the city is complete. And at that time, it will determine the total cost. We do know that it's going to cost much more. The design will be larger, fresher, more welcoming. The budget, ACSM did present us a contract for the new design of the gateway, wayfinding kiosks and parking signages. It's a contract between the DDA, CVB, and that company. The project will not exceed $200,000. The CVB board did meet on Thursday, April the 20th, to discuss the contract, and they have no problem with it, in favor of it. David Macklin has also reviewed it. So I just wanted to give you all an update where we stand on that, because we've been talking about the signage for a long time.
We have.
Oh.
All right, council, do you have any questions? All right, Ms. McPherson.
My question is, who do we have to thank for finally resolving this? Week after week, I'd read it in the city manager report, unresolved, pending, 63,005 already paid toward it. We had 2 unresolved issues with 2 property owners. They're resolved. Who do we thank?
Yeah, Lisa got
Yeah,
it done.
thank you, thank you.
4 years.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing those, but we are going to wait on the rebranding and add to it. Okay. Okay, the next item is the appointment of 2 new members to the Main Street Advisory Board.
Wait a minute, I'm not through with that one.
Oh,
Let me do this. All right, does anybody else have any questions for Alyssa on this, on the update on the gateway signage? All right, so that's for information only. Let's move to C2, the appointment of 2 new members to the Main Street Advisory Board. Go ahead, Alyssa.
okay. Melissa Hill and Julie Moore resigned from the board due to their work schedules creating these 2 vacancies. So I advertised, I received 4 applicants. The Main Street Board interviewed all 4 applicants at their last meeting a couple weeks ago and discussed the applicants, and they are recommending the appointment of Candy Wilson to fill Melissa Hill's unexpired term to 12/31/2023, and the appointment of Landon Prather to fill the vacancy of Julie Moore for the term of 2 years. So if you all do approve them, the other 2 applicants will be asked to serve on one of our committees. And those applicants are already on our volunteer list.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes, one of them volunteered at the Jazz Festival. The other one's got her new shirt and is going to volunteer at some of the other concerts. So even though they're not appointed to the board, they still have an opportunity to serve and to
Absolutely.
volunteer. So there's our staff recommendation, and the impact of this, we'll have a full board that will carry on the City of Billerica's Main Street program of economic development and promotion of the downtown central district.
All right. Any questions for Alyssa? on
I
these?
do want to state
Hold on.
with the, of what David Macklin talked about the term, because I've got here Landon Prather's term to end 5/9/2025, so I needed David to clarify that, if it needs to end 5/31/2020.
Once we enact the
12/31.
charter change, that'll automatically
Okay, so
change.
we'll just go on with this.
Yes,
Secretary,
because then it'll change automatically, and the city clerk will then be directed to notify
Okay.
everyone what their new expiration date is. Okay, Ms. McPherson, did you have something?
Yeah, I appreciate the way you resolve this, because I know all these applicants to a degree, a couple of them very casually, but all of them have shown a lot of passion about what's going on. And I just think, you answered my question, I just think it's really good that when you've got people like that, if they can't get this, you've got them on committees so
That's
we can
correct.
still use their talents, their gifts, and their, them wanting to make a difference in the downtown. So
we did
that's
have
good.
a lady come yesterday to the office that wants to be a volunteer as well.
That's great.
So our volunteers are filling up, which is great, because we certainly need them.
Good,
Yeah.
thank you. All right, Mr. Carter?
Yeah, I was going to ask if that 5/9 is going to go forward to 12/31/25, or is it going to back up to 4/31? Back up to 24?
It's to be determined.
Won't know until it's enacted. All right, anybody else? Okay, any objection to make, Anna, okay. Well, by the time I look back the other way, go ahead.
You're too quick. Or I'm too slow, one or the other. I noticed that 2 of the applicants have Carrollton addresses, and one of the ones that was chosen have a Carrollton address, and 2 of them had Villa Rica addresses. I'm just asking because, do we not?
Well, they work at a local business.
Okay,
Yes.
I just wanted clarification on that. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else? All right, any objection to making this consent number 6? All right. Let's move on to C3, Community Grant Application. This is for the Thomas A. Dorsey Birthplace and Gospel Heritage Festival, Inc. Alyssa?
Okay, So the next three items, we have received applications for the community grant program. The first one came from Thomas A. Dorsey Birthplace and Gospel Heritage Festival Incorporated. They submitted their application in the amount of $10,000. And this is for their annual event that will take place on June 23rd and June 24th at the Mill. Just to let you know, this will be the 29th festival for Thomas Dorsey. It started back in 1995 as the first annual. This year will be the 29th festival. So the Main Street Advisory Board reviewed the application at their last meeting and has approved in a majority vote the dollar amount requested of $10,000. So staff recommends the approval of the Community Development Grant application of $10,000 to the Thomas A. Dorsey Birthplace and Gospel Heritage Festival Incorporated for the festival that will be held on June 23rd and June 24th at the Mill.
Okay, are there any questions on this item?
Yeah.
Mr. Carter?
I noticed the whole total amount of the grant money we have is $20K, and I noticed it got divided up between these three. How did you divide that up? 10?
They actually requested a certain amount.
This just happened to follow
Yeah,
it,
but
totaled up to $20K, is that the
You'll see on the third one, though, that we approved their request at a lower amount because that's what's left.
Okay.
Yes. We did not divide them up. They actually requested it based on their expenses.
But you dropped one of them down because there wasn't enough
Yes.
money left?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, anybody else? All right, is there any, Ms. McCoy?
I would just like to say for the Thomas Dorsey thing, the sample budget makes a lot of sense, and they did a really good job on it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, any objection to making this consent number 7? Okay, let's go to C4, community grant. Yeah, but they each have their own item. Do they each have their own item in motion? Yeah, they must.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's go to C4.
So
community.
Thomas Dorsey was C7, right? Consent 7?
Yes, sir.
I missed that one. Okay.
Oh, y'all are confusing me. All right, C
Consent 7. Thomas Dorsey was consent 7, right?
is consent
Okay,
7,
thank you.
yes.
Sorry.
So now I'm going to do C4, but that's because C comes after B, not because it's consent. C4, community grant application, Alzheimer's Group of Carroll County. Go ahead, Alyssa.
Okay. The Alzheimer's Group of Carroll County has submitted an application in the amount of $2,750 for their Movie at the Mill event that will be on September 30th at 5 o'clock. And I do need to say that this is their second event. They did this last year. This group is a nonprofit organization that provides education, support, and respite to those in our community coping with the disease and other types of dementia. It was founded in 1987, and they hold 4 to 5 events annually to help provide funds for the respite and education, as well as support groups for the caregivers. The Main Street Advisory Board reviewed this application as well and has approved in a majority of vote the dollar amount requested of $2,750. So staff does recommend the approval of the community grant application of $2,750 to the Alzheimer's Group of Carroll County for their Movie at the Mill event on September the 30th, 2023 at 5 p.m.
Okay, are there any questions for Alyssa on this item? Okay, is there any objection to making this consent number 8? Okay, let's move on to C5, community grant application, Billerica Lions Club. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And
Consent
C8
7.
is community, is Alzheimer's. Okay. All right. Now, tab C, number 5, community grant application, Billerica Lions Club. Go ahead, Alyssa.
Okay. The Billerica Lions Club and the Golden City Lions Club has submitted a community development grant program application in the amount of $7,700. This is a fundraising event for the club that will take place on Friday, October 6th at the Mill. That will be a Matt Stone concert named the Elvis Presley Experience. Just information on Matt. He's a Florida native and has been named by Graceland as one of the top 10 Elvis tribute artists in the world. So Stone will be playing in Lawrenceville the night before and has committed and said that he can perform in Billerica on October the 6th. Okay, the Lions Clubs are non-profit organizations supported by the Lions International Association that began in 1917. There are over 480,000 clubs all over the world. Lions serve and give their valuable time and effort to improve their communities. So both clubs, the Billerica Lions Club and Golden City Lions Club, they both voted unanimously to have this event as a fundraiser. The clubs are unable to continue A Taste of Billerica. This was due to COVID and especially due to the current circumstances of our local restaurants. So the funds raised in this event will support our charitable missions and other projects related to the global causes of the Lions Club International. The Main Street Board also unanimously approved this grant as well. So staff recommends approval of the Community Development Grant Program for the Billerica Lions Club in the amount of $7,250 for the October 6th event at the mill. The $7,250 is the balance remaining.
Okay. Any questions for Alyssa on this item? All right. Is there any objection to making this consent number 9?
Mayor,
Yes.
I think I've asked this question before, and I just frankly don't recall. But since I'm a member of the Billerica Lions Club, do we have to put this on? Can I put this on consent? I guess I can put it on consent.
As long as you don't
but we
object, then
Okay.
it'll move right through, and you can choose not to vote tonight if that becomes the case.
I don't think that's necessary.
Okay, so you can
Okay.
move. All right.
Excellent. Thank you,
You
sir.
have asked it before. All right, consent number 9. All right, thank you, Alyssa.
Okay, I've got one other thing. This is not on the agenda, but to let you know that the city has been designated and we've received our 2023 National Main Street Accreditation recently. A lot of things goes into that accreditation. We do monthly reporting, annual reporting. We have to keep up with the multiple things like economic development, how much money is spent in the city, volunteer hours, events, revitalization programs, economic opportunities, small business entrepreneurs. And just to let you know, we did meet their qualifications and have been accredited for another year. And along with that, we have signed off on the memorandum of understanding with the Georgia Department of Affairs, and this MOU actually has pages of information on things that I have to do as the downtown manager and also the Main Street Board. So there is a lot of work that goes into this, and the board works very hard, so we're excited that we did get accredited for another year.
Congratulations, thank you. All right, D1, Chief. Oh, Lujan. Motorola portable radios. This is your first time up here, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Did they tell you were going to have to do this when they gave you those bars?
That amongst other things, yes.
Okay, well, as long as they were up front with you.
Good afternoon. This next item that I'm bringing to you is a budgeted item to equip the police department with 7 Motorola APX 4000 portable radios. This is a purchase from Metropolitan Communications, who is an established vendor and Motorola distributor. These 7 radios are going to be the price of $25,375.28. This is a phase-out project that the police department is doing to get rid of or to phase out some of our older Motorola STX radios that are no longer serviceable. So we have come up with this. The older radios are no longer able to be repaired, and this is an ongoing transition for the police department.
Right. This is. It seems like this is maybe number 3 in this process. Is that right? You couldn't negotiate a better price on this? I mean, 7 radios, $25,000.
Right. We actually restructured the
That's
quote.
all right. I just wanted to pick on you for a second. At least they're bringing you with an item that is budgeted, because
Yes,
that could get even longer. up
Yes,
here.
sir.
All right. Any questions for Lujan? All right.
Well, my
Danny's question was already answered.
only question is about how many more radios do we have left?
Yeah, how
to
many
phase
more?
out?
How many more phases of this do we think there'll be?
I believe this will be the last phase.
Okay.
We have 7 of the older radios, so this purchase will be taking care of that. It doesn't account for our vacant positions, so we may have to purchase a few more next budget year. But as we fill positions, we'll
Okay.
take a look at
That
that.
should be in the next budget cycle?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Luan? All right. Is there any objection to making this consent number 10? Nope. See, and that's how you don't have to come back in the evening, although we'd like you to come back. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. E, Public Works. My pal Hal. Solid Waste Services Operational and Financial Assessment.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, sir.
All right, so in your packet, there's probably a whole bunch of information, but we're requesting an unbudgeted amount of $25,000 to conduct a solid waste services operational and financial assessment. We are fortunate to have Dave Harvell, who has 25 years experience doing exactly this. He's been sitting on the horn, listening to this entire meeting, waiting for his opportunity to take any questions that you may have. So we're glad that Dave was able to join us tonight. He does work for, like I said, Davenport and Lawrence, and within the packet you'll see his credentials and what he brings to the table. So before we go to any kind of questions, I do want to say the purpose of this is to select a consultant to evaluate the collection options and the revenue potential for Villa Rica alone, and also for several surrounding communities that are struggling with the services currently available in the West Georgia market. Several of the surrounding communities have recently had their solid waste collection rates skyrocket, or in some cases canceled altogether with little to no notice. I believe it is quite likely that we will receive similar news soon, which unfortunately we did. Shortly after I printed this out, GFL had come to us with a rate increase of 5.1% due to the CPI increase, which will put us up. I have numbers here, which will increase our amount that we're charging our current customers from $16.73 to $17.48 per household. Our neighboring city of Temple has been raised, or will be raised next year up to 19, and I would think subsequently we would expect a similar, if not same thing. And being that our rate is currently right now higher than theirs, I would not be surprised if ours was up over the $20-some mark. I'm currently paying that by myself for my residential subscription at my house. So to me, I think that's pretty high. But irregardless, in an effort to proactively look ahead, we met with Temple, Bowden, and Fairfield Plantation. We discussed how we might work together to jointly provide solid waste collection services. It was agreed that we would identify our options, the associated costs, and the resulting revenue potential. With my 20-plus years of experience in solid waste operations, it was logical for Villa Rica to spearhead this process. Davenport and Lawrence comes highly recommended from several of my contacts in the waste industry, and it would certainly be my recommendation that the city engage Davenport Lawrence to conduct a feasibility study on internalizing municipal solid waste recycling collections with the potential to also offer these services outside of our city limits. And that's just a brief summary. I mean, there's a whole lot more to it. The potential of what we could do. Obviously, there's a drought in our area for service providers. We're kind of at the mercy, I think, of some of the larger companies, and it's not to our advantage by any means. As early as yesterday, I was having to go out and meet with the general manager of the company we currently use just to go over the 20-some different large stains in the subdivisions from leaking trucks. That to me is just unacceptable. Not to mention the 6 and 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. services that are being conducted on residential households that are not within our ordinance. It's outside of our ordinance. So hopefully we can get those rectified, but it's not the first time we've had these conversations. It seems that we keep going over and over and over again. And one of the things that I've learned in my Certified Public Works Manager's course is you can never expect to deliver a level of service or have someone else deliver a level of service that you would deliver yourself. And I firmly believe, specifically with my experience, and I can give you a booklet of resumes or references, that we will not get a service as good as we will get if we were to do it ourselves. And our citizens deserve that. They're paying for that. And so I'd implore you to consider that. And again, Dave is available here for any questions that you may want to direct to him, as well as myself.
You say he's on the horn?
He's right there.
Okay. I hadn't heard that term in a
On the
long
horn?
time.
It must be a northern thing.
So it may be. So I do want to, since you brought it up, we don't talk about a lot of these processes a lot in this setting, but we have had an ongoing issue for many months now with the leaking hydraulic fluid all over the paved streets in our subdivisions. A couple of these subdivisions have been more impacted than others, so I don't know if it's because of the truck that's in use at that time, but that is just one of the big concerns that we've had, and we have not had a lot of success in getting this mitigated. We have made our customer service people are on a almost daily basis reaching out to GFL for help. The deputy city manager has met with their leadership. We've been working on this. I guess I'm saying this mostly so that the public knows that this is not unseen and that it's not that it's not being worked on. It's just that the problem is a continuing problem, and we have been unable to get it to a manageable level because it continues. So what we're looking at here, as Hal as mentioned, is that we are trying to be a little proactive. We're trying to get ahead of the curve and maybe partner with some of the local municipalities and even Fairfield Plantation, who has 3,000 plus residents there, who are also facing issues with the cost of this service. So we're looking at engaging. I don't know this company, but Davenport Lawrence, at a cost of $25,000 for them to. Oh, there's the person. I didn't know there was a person behind me. So that's the horn. Okay.
That's Dave Harvell. Yeah.
It stunned me for a second because it was moving. But to basically consult for us on what that would look like if we were to try to internalize that in terms of cost and in terms of service and probably a number of other points. So do you want to introduce him, or council, do you have any questions to start with? All right, let's start with Mr. Carter. Let's start that way, then we'll see.
Okay, when we talk of solid waste, what all does that include when we talk of solid waste?
So that's your curb. So in mind, what I envision is obviously your curbside collection of municipal solid waste, your household residential waste, and as well as commercial. So we have commercial businesses that are also struggling with service, the exorbitantly high cost service, and we have industrial services that would potentially benefit from this. I mean, that's really part of what Davenport Lawrence is going to do is to do a full assessment to see what makes the most sense, what we can do, what our disposal options are, so on and so forth, and really kind of get into the weeds on what would be in the best interest of the city of Villa Rica.
Okay, right now Villa Rica does have curbside pickup, and we've revamped that to every other week for curbside.
And that's a bulk pickup.
Okay, that's called bulk instead of solid waste. That's bulk.
From where I come from, that's bulky pickup.
But we do call it solid waste here. I want to make sure that that he understands what we're talking about. So
it's curbside, yeah.
Once a week.
It's every other week now.
Sure,
The
you're
toters,
right.
the carts.
But the stuff, the extra things you have in your house, the furniture or the old end table or something like that, that's your solid waste.
Okay.
Okay.
About once or twice a year, we have anything goes pickup. So, is that what
That's
we're
right.
talking
That's
about?
a city cleanup. No, what he's talking about now is the actual cans the household
dumpster that goes
garbage,
to the road.
the ones you drive 2 miles to the end of your driveway, that one. That's what
Yep.
he's talking about
Yep,
right
side
now.
load. Yes, sir.
That's what GFL does for us. We already internally do the solid waste, but GFL handles what I'll call that household garbage, and then solid waste. How about that? All right,
Sure.
Go ahead. Anybody, Miss McPherson?
Yeah, so it's never an advantage to the customer when you're dealing with either a monopoly or, in our case, certain years, the sole bidder. There's no competition. They're like, hey, you don't like it, where are you going to go? My question is this. I see that we're spearheading it. Obviously, we're looking at, who we're going to hire here to do this assessment. Does that mean are we the primary funder for the other cities also or? Yes.
That happens all the time.
Ultimately, I mean,
You say no and he says yes, or you say yes and he
That's
says no.
why I do
But
this.
either way,
I'm like-
I'm going to try to make
Cut
it.
a deal I don't know about?
I'm gonna try to make it work out. Let's let Hal. Go ahead, Hal.
So no, I think initially, when I'm saying, we're spearheading this because it would be logical for me to be involved in that process because I had the experience in it. Not that I'm the smartest man in the room by any means, but I know a little bit about garbage. I think, and that's one of the things that this phase one is going to kind of rule out is what role do we want the other municipalities to play? Do we want Villa Rica to buy the trucks and get in the garbage business, and then we charge them a weekly rate or monthly rate to service them? We give them, we reach out and say, okay, well, Temple, for $15 a home, we're going to pick you up too, or whatever. You know what I mean? So that's part of this initial data collection process. Is what can we do? What's the best thing for Villa Rica? What trucks are available? I mean, it really spells it out in the proposal on the different things that Davenport and Lawrence will be looking at.
So, then let me go back and answer her question. The answer to your question is yes, we will be the sole payer, which is what Tom is saying in terms of this initial assessment. But that is because we are the most prepared to sort of lead this. And the initial meeting with all the authorities and with Fairfield was to say, if we were to find another way to provide you with another option, would you be interested? And so that's really what this is about, because Hal has the experience that none of the other authorities have.
That's what I picked up from what you
Sure.
said, that basically it would be because we're the only ones in position to even consider maybe taking this on in-house.
Right.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Okay. I think this. Oh, do you want to say anything?
Dave, did you have anything you wanted to?
Is he looking at back here from? Where is he? What is he seeing?
He sees Teresa.
Oh, okay. He just sees you. I'm thinking. All right. Would you like to say anything?
Absolutely. Mayor and Council, first of all, my name is Dave Harvell. I am with Davenport Lawrence. I am also a retired city manager here in North Carolina. I grew up to the ranks real fast in the Public Works arena, and congratulations, Hal, on Public Works Week. I'm a lifetime member of APWA and also a lifetime member of ICMA. So I just look forward to working with you all if that's the direction you all take. But I will say this at the offset. This is a national issue. One of your council members was born and raised in my hometown, Delray Beach, Florida, and that was kind of cool when I seen that council member McPherson down in Delray Beach. Same thing down there right now, literally having the same issues with GFL. I'm closing out a project right now with GFL, same issues, bad service, high cost, bad service in Southern Pines, which is right next to Pinehurst, North Carolina. Very affluent area. Terrible service, and we, in the process of basically booting GFL to the curb and bringing in, we got 5 new potential bidders came into the line. We lined up some transfer stations, different landfills. We have to kind of look at all the pieces of the puzzle and put them together for this time. That's literally ongoing. I was actually working with them as your meeting was going on at the same time. So it is a national issue. Northeast to southeast, from Palm Beach Solid Waste Authority to Pinehurst, North Carolina. So it's happening, and I've been busy helping solve many municipalities try to fix these issues. And the key component, as Mayor said, was like the hydraulic fluid leak or the garbage juice on the road. those are all can be solved, what's called SLA, service level agreements. There has to be a financial component to penalize your service provider. Otherwise, if you don't hit the pocketbook, it just doesn't work. And I've got a good track record throughout basically the Southeast of putting it together for municipalities. And I'm here to answer any questions y'all have at all. Davenport Lawrence is a really good team. I'm the guy that deals with the solid waste, public utilities, water, sewer. I consider, this may sound a little bit odd, but it's also solid waste. If you look at it as a utility, and it's as important to economic development as water and sewer. If you can't provide a fairly strong, robust solid waste collection services, landfill, transfer station, collection process, it can have a negative impact on the industrial complex, any type of economic development component. Again, just like water, sewer, and electric, it's all tied together. Solid waste, in the last, say, 20 years, have finally convinced folks it is a utility. You've got retail, wholesale in, and solid waste coming out, just like water and sewer. It's the same thing. Anyway, I'm very open to any questions y'all have about the process that we would like to take. That's it.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Council, does anyone have any questions?
Can I ask one more thing?
Ms. McPherson.
Because you were talking about the incorporation of other things, landfills and everything else, and there's been some pushback, even turned into some legal wrangling in West Georgia in a particular county, because there's this, I don't know, anti-landfill thing, and I hate to say it, but we produce garbage. It has to go somewhere. And I can't say for one community whether they should have it or not have it. I know we pay high tipping fees where we do have to take it, but I can also state in Palm Beach County, one of our most beautiful parks down there in western Palm Beach, and makes a great cross-country course, was a former landfill. And they built a park on top of it, and it's got tennis courts and, all sorts of things. And so as we move forward with this and where we're going to take our stuff and how much it's going to cost, cities and counties need to, and I don't know if you have any input on that, because there seems to be a real fear with having the landfill in an area or that sort of thing. Do you have anything to contribute to that? Because we're going to need one.
The NIMBY factor it's not my backyard, is a real thing, and it's understandably so. There's because you do have litter up and down the highways and different landfills when they don't tarp their different units and things like that. So there are realistic reasons why people don't like them. However, as you said, you've got to have a wastewater treatment plant, you've got to have a water plant, you've got to have a landfill. It's just the nature, you've got to have it. So how the siting is, I did site a couple transfer stations in southern Illinois, western Kentucky. I managed a couple landfills in the Midwest during my time with Republic Services. I've got some experience with it. It's a very long, laborious process to get a landfill or transfer station permitted, no matter what state you're in, Illinois, Kentucky, Florida. We were blessed down in South Florida, as you know, a council member, is with the Solid Waste Authority. We put together that package years ago, 1970s and 80s. That's one of the best things is to create for any regional area is an authority, because it's basically the economies of scale puts the private sector in check. If you can't have some competition with, unfortunately, if you have a monopoly on one side, the government, the local govs either have to step into that realm and provide a balancing act in that landfilling transfer station business model. Because if you have a monopoly, that's not a good position for anybody to be in on any business model, anything. The answer is yes. There's solid waste authorities are actually a very good tool to keep the private sector in check. And I'm a private sector, public sector, both. I've owned my own garbage trucks, and I've been in the private sector, and I retired as a city manager. But the private sector needs to be kept in check. That's just a fact. I mean, that's because you have a monopoly, it gets a little expensive with that. Just like we had the big breakup at Mall Bell way back in my day. So there is some challenges there. And I don't know the area, your region at this point in time, the land mass, potential sightings for landfills. I don't know any of that information at all. So
Just to
Okay.
just
All
to be
right.
clear, that
Mr.
we're not
Martin.
we're not necessarily retaining his company to explore the landfill issue. We're just more the general garbage issue that we're facing.
That's
Just
correct.
right.
That's
okay.
correct, yes. All right. Anybody else? Okay. Miss, all right. Ms. McCoy.
To piggyback on Councilman Montahan, yeah, this is just the kind of discovery phase, right?
Correct.
To
Yep.
see if it's feasible. Once we go through this, then we'll be able to intelligently answer questions about landfills and about how we're going to do the financing with other municipalities.
Yep, correct.
I just don't really want people to lose sight of that.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, and
again-
I have one more comment. I'm so sorry. But I do think we did put in the budget last year for the Parks and Rec, to redo and kind of get some ideas. Even though this is unbudgeted, and I hate approving stuff that's unbudgeted, but I do feel that this is a very good unbudgeted item, because just like water and sewer, this is a utility, and I mean, people are going to get upset. People get upset when I don't need to use that term solid waste, but when waste is leaking on their streets or anything like that. So I think this is a reasonable amount to be able to kind of explore other options.
Okay. You
Again,
want
though, I mean,
one more? Go
we
ahead.
mentioned landfill again. I'm just saying, this is not for just a landfill. This is for general garbage services, exploration of options.
Right, and I would just clarify, when she asked about whether or not we would have more information, the truth is we probably will, but that's not what we're seeking here.
Right.
This is an assessment
just the
for
feasibility.
internalizing
Yep.
these operations. But I will also make another point about the budget. And of course, I teased Mr. Carter a little bit about that question, but it is important, I think, to all of us, it certainly is to me, that we are always keeping within our budget. But not everything is able to be anticipated. This opportunity really was not something that, although we could have seen a year ago that this trend was happening, we didn't know that we'd have Hal, we didn't know that we'd have this sort of internal expertise that would even promulgate something like this. So sometimes when an item comes before us, even if it's not budgeted, just like sometimes we pay a little more on a bid than maybe some of the low bids, we make the decision to do it. So anyway, sir, I thank you for your time. I need to move on from this. I will give council just one more question. This is a big undertaking. If you have anything else. All right. If none, I'm going to ask if there are any objections to making this consent number 11. All right. Hearing none. Thank you, Hal.
Thank you.
And thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dave.
All right. We're going to go to F, utilities. Number 1, Calvin's Lake improvements, change order number 1. Who's doing this? John, good to see you. Go
Thank you.
ahead.
Good afternoon. This first request, excuse me, this first request is to approve a change order provided by Grizzard and Associates relative to some current work taking place at Collins Lake Pump Station. We recently engaged with Tim Grizzard to install an elevated platform and relocate our control systems and panel for Collins Lake Pump Station up out of the floodplain by installing them on the platform. In conjunction with that, we've identified a need to increase the power supply to that pump station. We have 3 reasons for the need for that power. One is so we can run both pumps at that station simultaneously. Right now we can only run one pump at a time. We'd like the ability to run both. That will also allow us the ability to scour the force main from the pump station over to Lakes Paradise and Fashion, which occasionally we need to do to maintain the adequate flow through that long force main. And the third reason is so we can, at some point in the future, install larger pumps at that pump station as demand increases. We want the ability to increase that flow. So in looking at the need to install a greater power supply to that station, we realized that the best time to do that would be now, while the control panel is being relocated and new conduit being run. It makes more sense to do it now. We can certainly get a better price by doing it now than if we wait and do it at a later date. So we looked at our options of how we can go about having three-phase power to that station. The first of which was for Carroll EMC to install three-phase power from the closest source, which will be over 125. We don't have a solid number, but we know it's over 125,000. The second option was to convert the panel itself and other components at the station to three-phase. However, we would need to run new power from the Carroll EMC transformer, which is probably 400 or 500 feet up the hill down to that station. We'd have to install larger power, which brought that price to $87,000. So in conversation with Tim Grizzard and Carter and Sloop and staff, we realized that we could install a rotary converter at the Carroll EMC transformer for an increase of $56,000, which would allow us to use the existing power lines and the existing panel. So that would give us the ability, the impact on that would be the ability to run both pumps simultaneously, scour the force main from Lake Cowens over to Fashion and Paradise, and at some point in the future install larger pumps. And we'd also be able to install three-phase pumps in the future, which is something we'd look forward to doing in the future.
Okay. Any questions on this item? All right. Is there any objection to making this consent number 12? All right. Let's go to F2, Dam Repair Development Report. John?
Okay. This proposal is to engage Carter Engineering to prepare a scope of work for the Cowens and Paradise Lake dams. Early in the year, we engaged with Carter Engineering to survey the dams at Cowens Lake, Lake Paradise, and Lake Fashion. A result of that survey provided us with a report that identified some deficiencies in those dams, to include some slope failures, some seepage through the dams, scouring of an outfall area at one dam, some grading issues, and some inadequate drain systems on those two dams, primarily those two dams though. So we've asked Carter Engineering for a quote for them to provide us a set of plans to make those repairs for those two dams. So this quote of $16,300 is the quote for Carter Engineering to provide us a scope of work that we can actually pass off to contractors to get bids to make repairs to the necessary dams.
Okay. Any questions on this item? All right. Any objection to making this consent number 13? All right. F3, Purchase of Distribution Isolation Valves. Jason Waddell, Distribution Collections Manager.
How you doing?
Come on up here. This is your first time up here too, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's see
I'm
how
not a
it
good
does.
speaker like John is.
I'll tell you, yeah, because I'll tell you, see how easy that was for John? I mean,
Oh, yeah,
just
he did.
easy.
I'm not like that. So.
Let's see if that works for you.
Yeah, I'm not.
All right, let's try it. Go ahead.
All right. I'm here to ask approval to purchase distribution isolation valves for our distribution system. Here recently, we just have finished our spring flushing, and I identified a bunch of valves that need to be replaced, old valves. So some of our valves are from a sole source vendor, which can only be used with our hydrostop equipment, and that's something that we previously bought a couple years ago. Our staff has received 2 bids for the standard material from Hayes Pipe and Consolidated Pipe Supply. Our staff recommends to purchase the valves from Hayes Pipe and the hydrostop equipment for $49,663.57.
Okay. Who is our sole source on this?
Hydrostop, we can only use, it's an inserter valve equipment. We can only use those valves for that equipment.
Okay, so that's Hydrostop.
Yep.
All right, Council, any questions? All right, Ms. McPherson.
Just clarification in a nutshell. When we have a problem, the whole reason this exists is to be able to isolate the
Yes,
area
sir. Yes, ma'am.
so that everything else still functions and we can work on it.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
thanks.
Anybody else? All right, any objection to making this consent number 14?
And it was budgeted.
Yeah. Well, just so you know, Jason,
Okay.
we read the cover sheet up
Okay,
there at the
all
top.
It never hurts to
All
emphasize
right,
it.
F4, Water Plant Basin Repair. Aaron Lewis. Thank you, Jason. Sounds like you got applause going on in the back. It's not that difficult. Oh, well, it is for Tracy, so to him. All right, just kidding. Go ahead, Aaron.
How you guys doing this afternoon?
Good.
Okay, back in January, we used engineered restorations to fill in some cracks that we had in the bottom of the basin where the basin was kind of leaking. During those inspections, we found that there's a void underneath the walkway and the staircase. So we would, sorry, I'm nervous. We would like to use engineered restorations to once again kind of fill in that void. We have a concern that if we do not fill in that void, that the sidewalk is going to continue to crumble up underneath the building,
Right.
and that the basin leaks will get worse. So we recommend that we engage with engineered restorations to further the basin repair and to fill the void under the walkway at the cost of $17,500.
Is this at the water plant?
It is.
Where's that walkway?
If you're facing the building on the right-hand side of the building where the basin is up top, that
Yeah.
walkway that's going up right there.
Okay, I never noticed that. Is that due to washing?
Actually, the void itself has been there for as long as I can remember, but over the years, you can look underneath there now and tell that the washouts have made it worse, and you can also see chunks of concrete that have kind of come out from underneath there.
Okay.
So we want to kind of
So we're
fix
trying
it.
to get ahead of that. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any questions for Aaron? All right. Any objection to making this consent number 15? All right. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
And nothing to be nervous about. All right. F5, West Plant Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition Upgrade, Eric. Where is Eric? This is John.
Yeah, so Eric's taking a training class today, so I'm filling in for Eric.
Taking a training class. Training class?
Training class,
Oh.
yes.
Okay. All right. Well, go ahead.
This proposal is to engage with Zao Technology for a SCADA system upgrade at the West Wastewater Treatment Plant through John Zio of Zao Technologies. As we know, we've replaced the SCADA systems at all 32 lift stations. We're currently installing the new SCADA system through Zao Technologies at the North Plant as well, and we've done some work at the water plant from John Zao and Zao Technologies. So this is really the last component of that system-wide upgrade. We've asked John Zao for a quote for the changeover of the West Plant to what we currently have had since the plant was built to the newer technology that we've been installing in our other locations. The quote came in at $78,485, which is just a little bit less than our final budgeted number that we remaining. I think we have 83 left in the project. So we're a little bit under budget on it.
Okay. And I see that John Zao has been the original SCADA integrator for the entire system. So
Yes,
that
he was
correct?
the original SCADA integrator when it was J.K. Durham.
Okay.
J.K. Durham is no longer an active SCADA system supplier, but in the interim, John Zao went off on his own and started his business, Zao Technologies,
Okay.
which is why we engaged with him to give us quotes for the original project of all the lift stations.
I understand that. I wasn't familiar with the name,
Mhm.
but now that you say that, I understand that. All right, council, any questions for John on this item? All right, any objection to making this consent number 16? All right, thank you, John.
Thank you.
All right, G1 financial update. Jennifer,
Yes, good afternoon.
let's go.
Usually we do these at night, but Sarah has graciously allowed me to go to a school program tonight, so I'm going to give the presentation.
That's okay. She'll just come up and do it then.
Well, that's wonderful.
that
That's
okay?
wonderful. I'm glad that Sarah did that
Yeah.
and didn't say anything to me about it. I'm just kidding.
It's
Go
the
ahead.
end of the
That's
school
good.
year.
I mean, I
There's
did
a lot
give
of
her a
special
Starbucks
things
gift card,
going
so-
on.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was, but you didn't give me a Starbucks gift card.
Oh.
Lord have mercy. See, once you start handing
She was
out
supposed
gifts,
to share it with you.
It's school time of the year to get gifts.
that's the red candies I get, right?
Yes,
That's what
yes.
I got you. All right, go ahead.
Okay, here we go. This is as of March, and we have had a request last time to add a column. So now we have a column showing the percentage increase or decrease in the cash. You can see through March of this year compared to March of last year, we have a 13% increase in our total cash. We're sitting at around 34 million versus 30 million. General fund is about the same, which would be showing an actual increase, but remember we took about $2 million out of the general fund and around a little over $5 million out of the water and sewer fund to fund to temporarily fill fund the Mirror Lake connector due to the Fuquay development agreement. So that's why you see the water and sewer fund decrease of 69%. Sanitation and solid waste has about a 7% increase. It's sitting at around $209,000. Again, the Mirror Lake connector, I think we've spent around $1.2 million. It was around $7.2 million that was funded in that account. We're dwindling down on our 2015 Carroll Splost. Have just over $500,000 left in that account. Douglas Splost, we received our last Splost check in April. So the one that we receive this month will be for the new Splost that passed. So we'll be adding another row there that says 2022 Douglas Splost. And of course we have our 2021 Carroll Splost sitting at $6.7 million, which is a 25% increase. Residential permits and taps, building permits through March of this year have been is 13 at $31,698. Water taps sitting at 30. Water taps at $45,500 and 28 sewer taps at $112,000. Local option sales tax. Our sales tax is still performing very well. Carroll County's up by 8%. We received $172,000 versus $159,000 same time period last year. And Douglas County sales tax increased by 6%. We received $145,000 compared to last year at $137,000. Property taxes, this is probably be the last month that you'll see this slide. We've come close to collecting, if not already through the month of April. We're probably at 100% of what we budgeted for both Carroll and Douglas real and personal property taxes. We budgeted around 5.2, and through March we've received 5.1. Water and sewer is one of our enterprise funds. We treat it like a business. So right now, however, due to not receiving the water and sewer taps, is part of the reason that we're showing a loss of $1.2 million. Remember, March of last year included us receiving the ARPA funds, so that is why you see the drastic variance between the two, and that's why it's notated down at the bottom. So we were actually at a loss in March of last year as well. It was just that the ARPA funds came in and brought it to the black. Sanitation and solid waste. You can see again, this is our another enterprise fund. We have revenues of $865,000, total expenses of $814,000, and so far this year we are running a net income of $51,351. Our self-funded insurance fund is performing well this year as well. Our bank balance right now is at $1.5 million. And every month since the beginning of our fiscal year, we have had savings, meaning that our contributions to the fund, whether that be from the employer or from the city of Villa Rica or from the employees, have exceeded the expenses or the claims that we have paid out for a total of $315,775 in savings. And that is the end, unless you have questions.
All right. Any questions for Jennifer? All right. If we have any, we have your cell phone number, and we will call you tonight during the middle of your event.
Thank you.
I'm just kidding. Thank you. All right. Let's go to G2. To approve the updated customer sanitation rates due to GFL's 5.2% rate increase based on the Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, the CPI-U, effective June 1, 2023. Go ahead,
Yes.
Jennifer.
As part of the agreement when we went out to bid with GFL, part of their contract that they would bring before us a increase annually based upon the CPI-U, which is the Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers. And for that, this year it's 5.2%. And that would be effective June 1st. And because, like I said, it is an enterprise fund, if they go up on the rates for the city, then we have to in turn pass that along to the customer. And you can see, if you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see the table that shows the GFL rates. The current rate for a first card is 14.44 cents. 5.2% increase is a 75-cent increase. So the new GFL rate, meaning the rate that we will be charged, is $15.19. The second cart would be about a 46-cent increase. And the low-income senior, they do not actually have that rate. We offer that as a city, but they would still charge us the same as a first cart. The second box is the Villa Rica customer rate, meaning what we would charge the customer. So the first cart rate would go from $16.73 to $17.48. The second cart would go from $8.93 to $9.39. And the low-income senior would go from $12.55 to $13.11. And this would be effective June 1st, if approved.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Jennifer? Okay. All right. So, is there any objection to making this consent number 17? All right. So, G3, fiscal year 23 budget amendments, numbers 154 through 155. That's a small one.
Yes. This one is the one that our pal Hal has brought before us. This is the budget amendment that goes along with it. We're actually just using the fund balance within the solid waste fund. We feel like this fund could take that could take the funding from the fund balance to pay for the consulting services for the assessment that he presented earlier.
Okay, so this is for the assessment that we just talked about earlier.
Yes, sir.
Okay, is there any objection to making? Well, does anybody have any questions? All right, Ms. McCoy.
Why don't y'all lead with that when you brought it up the first time that this is coming out of the general, that this is coming out of the fund balance? Like, it would make it a lot, I'm just making a suggestion.
But if it's unbudgeted, that's where it's coming from.
Okay.
So. All right, anything else? Okay, so is there any objection to making this consent number 18? All right, thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
All right, H1, City Manager, execution of the GDOT Project Framework Agreement, Downtown Streetscape Project, Chris Montesinos. Chris, I didn't even see you back there.
Church.
Well, I haven't seen you at the church, so I wasn't sure.
Because I'm hiding in the back.
I see that now. All right, go ahead.
Okay, what this is the project framework agreement between the city and GDOT. This is for the Downtown Streetscape Project. Just a little background, this was the grant that was funded by the Atlanta Regional Commission for the planning engineering phase for the streetscapes. Now, the way that this works is it's federal highway funds that the Atlanta Regional Commission administers. However, ARC does not build streets, so they basically subcontract the work to be overseen through GDOT. And so even though even though this is currently a GDOT street area, it would apply with any other LCI type of project. So basically, this is the framework agreement, which just says that Atlanta Regional Commission gives you a grant for this amount. You have agreed to match the grant at this amount. This is what the scope is. And this is just sort of a consent of what we all know to be as the framework for the project.
Okay. All right, any questions for Chris on this? All right. Is any objection to making this consent number 19? All right. Thank you on that,
Thank
Chris.
you.
All right. But you got another one. H2 grant application for LMIG funds. Oh, that's not you. Is that Hal? Tom. All right. Go ahead.
Okay. So we reached out to District 6, the Cartersville guys, some time ago, months ago, about resurfacing the two, what I call two, they call one, park and ride on 61 in front of Wendy's and McDonald's. And months went by, it wound up in their maintenance group, and we couldn't ever get an answer from them. And then poof, one day we get this letter that says, hey, we'll commit up to $2.25 to do this, or 70% of the project, whichever's less, but in return, you take care of it forever. Right? So I'm recommending that we do this because I know from talking to the GDOT guys that there is no place in their value system where aesthetics fit. Right? It's throughput and safety. Don't care how it looks necessarily, or maybe at all. Never going to, that we can count on. This falls in the framework of what they call quick response projects, which is how they built the little roundabout at Punkintown. That dollar amount is the limit. We got money similar to this to assist us with the culvert at the driveway to Flowers Bakery, if you remember that, just a short time ago. So I think y'all need to talk about this and not just go, hey, let's put this on consent, because I know we want to do it, but this is not free. This is forever. We're going to maintain those parking lots forever.
Well, here's the thing.
And when you're a city, forever can be a long time.
Okay, well, here's the thing. That is a complete eyesore over there, that parking ride. And that's what we're talking about, so that people know. We're talking about in front of the Ingalls over on 61.
So
I've had multiple council members talk about this for years. And if the price is that we maintain it, to be able to get that done, otherwise it's not going to get done.
Right.
And so that's why the analogy really doesn't hold enough water, because the fact is we have to be our own best advocates. That is an eyesore, and it's dangerous. Frankly, you can't even drive through it. It has massive potholes. He drives a Civic. That whole car can fit in one of those potholes.
I don't drive a Civic. Well, the Civic's in the garage
Oh,
now.
I forgot. He parked the
But,
Civic. Go
yeah.
ahead. I'm
All
going
right,
to recognize Mr.
all right.
Montaigne.
So I was elected on March 26, 2019, and if it wasn't March 27, 2019, that I sent an email about this, it was pretty close to that date. I've been on this for 4 years now, and so I'm really glad to see this finally come to fruition. I would like to, maybe one day we could acquire that property from GDOT, and therefore, but that might be out of the cards now, but I'll take this. I'm looking forward to it. I know it's a long-term obligation, but as the mayor pointed out, it is a complete and utter eyesore. It is totally neglected and abused or disabused by GDOT. If you go to other communities and you look at their ride-share lots, they look better, and my only conclusion from investigating it is that that's because the local communities have taken kind of, quote, ownership of them, air quotes, and so I can't support this enough. Thanks.
All right, so we're going to come back to you for a budget adjustment, right? You see that arithmetic? They're only going to pay for 70% of this deal, and we estimate it's about $340. So we're going to wind up paying $100,000 or better to do this, but we put money in the budget every year for resurfacing, right? $500,000 out of Carroll Splosh, $500,000 out of Douglas Splosh. We get about $175,000 a year in traditional LMIG money, which is for resurfacing. So we have the cash. I mean, we have the money. We just don't have it budgeted to do this. So we'll bring that back to you. But like I said, I'm recommending it, knowing that somebody else is going to budget this later. You know, we're going to do the 100 and we're going to make it nice, and then we can start doing the landscape maintenance also. We can stripe it. I mean, how long has it been since it was striped? I don't even know.
About as long as Edge Road has
I don't
been
even know
striped.
if it was ever striped.
As long as Edge Road, there you go.
Oh, here we go. Now we're back on Edge
Yeah, I
Road.
know.
All right.
So
let me say this
recommending it.
to the
let's do
extent that no one heard this, because I do think Tom said it. We worked on trying to get a maintenance agreement with GDOT first. We first tried to get GDOT just to do the maintenance on this. To the councilman's point, Montaigne, he has been talking about this really probably since the day he walked in after he had gotten elected. But when I opened this letter and read it, first thing I thought was, well, Matthew's going to be glad that this got done. But I walked into Tom's office and he said, so I knew that he would he would have a little heartburn about the long term, because he talks about GDOT doesn't really care about aesthetics, but he don't care too much about aesthetics either. So, but at the end of the day, he knows this is the best thing for the community. And Ms. McPherson wanted to say something before I move on.
Okay, so we won't own it, but we'll have maintenance of it forever. Here's the thing that hit me from the time I first read it. Is everything, okay, so let me back up just a second. That place has never been full. We've never needed the vast majority of it, especially after we removed vehicles that were there for sale and weren't park and ride. Do we have to keep it all asphalt? Because one of the ugliest, and not just ugly, it's just not even healthy, is just when everything's asphalt, asphalt, asphalt. Do we have to keep all of it asphalt? Will they allow us to put in more green space in there? I know you have to tear up what's there. Why do we have to have all that asphalt there?
I don't know that, we've never talked about reducing the capacity of it.
Well, if you drive around Villa Rica, you get off the highway there, you make a right, you start heading down, and you see the philosophy was just pave a road and then just asphalt everything up to the door of things. Now, that wouldn't go with our current code, so why would we want to continue that if we can? And then, of course, where's the water? The water has to go somewhere, because it's not permeable for it to go through, whereas if you had some green space, and so I just want to know if we can do something
can ask
other
the
than pave
question.
the entire giant area.
Yeah, we can ask the question. You may be wondering what's different between this and Punkintown, because they did Punkintown roundabout out of the same money, but we're not on the hook for that. And the reason is that was a traffic initiative, right? That wasn't our initiative to do something that they didn't want to do. That was their initiative to do something they wanted to do.
Right.
And that's the difference. When they want to do it, then they pay for it, right? But like if there's lighting involved, then we commit to maintain the lights and pay for the electricity. So there's almost always some hook into us that we're going to pay to maintain it and keep it going. But in this case, it's all going to be on us. But how else are we ever going to make it look nice? I mean,
well,
it's our gateway.
Not that I'm excited about it being a park and ride, but to Ms. McPherson's point, I mean, it doesn't get used a lot now because it's really not usable. I mean, it's pretty bad. It's really bad.
Ugly.
But I don't necessarily want it to be used for park and ride anyway. But what I do also not want it to be used for is junk cars. And that's a lot of what's happening.
One of the benefits of this agreement is we get enforcement authority. So we can enforce whatever rules we want to put on it. And there's also a difference in the way that we think about it. If you're GDOT, this is an absentee kind of deal, right? Because they're in Cartersville, and right. But not only that, they don't own it. I think in a strict sense, they're responsible for it. But I think this was a grant.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
I think there's a grant somewhere back in the origins of this thing that have some kind of, what do you call it when you put restrictions on a
Covenant.
Yeah, maybe. There's something going on back there that restricts the use of it to just this.
Maybe we'd have David look a little bit further into that before we get around to appropriating money.
Yeah, we're not going to buy it.
But that's not what we're doing today.
We're never going to own it. We're not really going to control it, but we can police it, which we really haven't ever felt really comfortable doing up until now. So.
All right. Anything else?
I'll say that I kind of looked into like who owns them before and whether it was GDOT or not, and I cannot think of it right now. I think it was maybe the Governor's Office of Highway Safety, or there's some phone number you can call about them. And I called and left a couple of voicemails and never got a phone call back. I mean, there is some government entity out there that's technically, but it may just be a division of GDOT. I don't know, but yeah, that's a good question. I've never could figure out myself.
Okay, is there any objection to making this consent number 20? All right.
Is this a good unbudgeted item or
Well, we ain't spent a dollar yet, so let's just wait
I
till
think
we
it's
get
a
to
good
that.
unbudgeted.
This will be budgeted, though. By the time we spend money, it'll be in the budget. All right. H3, utility aid for Connors Road roundabout.
Okay, we were approached a couple of years ago about the possibility of a GDOT funded roundabout on 78 where Connors crosses the railroad. This is, in their terminology, a safety project, right? Which means that they're going to build it. The disadvantage is just like the two roundabouts on the bypass, there's utilities in the way, and we're responsible to move them if they're ours, and we got water and sewer in that area. But they typically will provide some utility relocation money to assist us with that expense. And in this case, like most of them, they also differentiate between what's necessary and what's not necessary. And in their terminology, if in the process of designing the relocation, we're moving some utilities that they are not deeming necessary, they call that a betterment. So go back to the North Bypass. There's utilities involved in both roundabouts, and we got utility aid to help us with that relocation, but the new water line that we're going to put on the bypass is a betterment in their terminology. It's a new line. It's not, we're not putting it in because of the roundabout construction. So same thing here at Connors. We've got water and sewer in the way. We've got to relocate it. They're estimating that at almost 230,000. There, is that right? Or is it more, is that the total? Nah, I don't think that's the total. I think the total is actually more than that. But anyway, I don't think I put it in there. Anyway, this is just the relocation part of what's ours that they agreed to. So, no, that's not true. The 169 is 100% of the necessary, and the 228 is the total because they deem part of it as a betterment.
But you don't know what that is that they're, because we're not putting anything
it's
new in.
outside of the roundabout, right? So anyway, our position was we wanted to get the water line out from under 78 because anytime we have a leak, right, that's a major ordeal for everybody, you know, vehicular traffic on top of our staff. So anyway, I recommend we do this. This is a lot better offer than last time. I think we got maybe, what, a 20% or so relocation aid on the North Bypass. This is 100%. I say we take this and run with it.
All right. Anybody got any questions for Tom on this? Ms. McCoy.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, the 228,515 is the complete cost of relocating it, correct? That's betterment and the necessary. They're willing to pay 169,280. So that means our out of pocket's like about 60,000, 59. So that's really what we're looking at is like about 60,000 out of pocket.
Right.
Okay.
It's a good unbudgeted expense.
Okay.
I recommend it anyway. I mean, our choice is we leave the water line under the new roundabout, and if that's smart, then you're going to have to explain it to me because I don't think that's smart.
All right. Any objection to making this consent number 21? All right. Let's go to H4, waste pit easement agreement.
All right. We haven't talked about this. This is new. So in the design of the North Bypass is about 130,000 cubic yards of surplus material. and it's not going to be good material. It's going to be a mix of dirt and blast rock. And so I don't want to landfill it if I can figure out how not to. So I'm working with Astra, who's the contractor, to take the blast rock and the dirt and screen it and then crush the rock and use it in the road construction so that it actually becomes the base of the road, as opposed to just taking all that in trucks and landfilling it someplace. And then hopefully there'll also be some good dirt out of that can be used. If you remember, and this, y'all did this prior to me getting here, y'all bought the land that's in the middle of the bypass, right? There's an Ingalls piece, and then we own a piece that's just above Fullerville Soccer, and then John Wayne Sauls owns a piece, and then the nursing home owns a piece, and that's where the bypass runs. So what I'm proposing to you is that we allow Astra to clear part of our property and temporarily store this material and crush it and screen it and store it all on our property so that we don't see this stuff landfilled, right? It will save us trips on our roads both ways, because if we don't do this, they're not only going to ship it out to landfill it, but they're going to have to bring all that rock in, from a quarry someplace. I think that helps us enough that it justifies it. Now, David may have a gratuity question about whether or not they pay us $10 for this or something, but anyway, that's my recommendation.
All right. Any questions?
So,
all right, Mr. Montan.
I'm sorry. So 130,000 cubic yards of surplus material, and you think some of that can be reused back into the road. So how much material would be left when you think the road is done that we're going to have to find something to do with on this piece of land? I think that's my question.
Well, we're going to spread it as it goes down.
Okay.
Right. So it's going to be on a pretty good piece of property. I mean, we own, I think, 75 acres right there. So it'll be the top corner, the northeast corner below the road, south of the road.
So you don't foresee kind of any future cost about having it now that
No.
everything's built and we're going to be obligated to get this thing off our property? Or
No, the idea is to completely reuse it, which helps us both ways. We don't landfill it, we don't drive it everywhere, and we actually get to use it someplace. And you've got development all in the city now that needs dirt, right, on and off. So hopefully somebody's going to take the good dirt, and then we'll spread the rest of it.
Okay.
And we'll get part of the property cleared for free.
So, you done?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ms. Smith first.
So we'll have dirt and rock.
I don't think so. I think the rock is going to go into the road
Okay. So it gets recycled.
effectively, yeah, which I like. So
Yeah, me too. I like it now. The side question, Fuquay's up there beating up rock, breaking it up. What are they doing with theirs?
they're talking about the same thing.
Okay.
Crushing that blast rock.
Yeah.
Using it as the base of the Mirror Lake connector.
Oh, good. Okay.
Right.
All right. Anybody else? All right, Mr. Carter.
Will we have enough left over to fill the Kroger hole?
That's an interesting thought, and we'll just have to see. Right now, the Kroger Hole project is on hold, so that project may not go forward. I don't know. It's very difficult.
The answer is no. We don't have enough for that.
It's ridiculously expensive to do what they're trying to do.
It's a big hole. It's like
Yeah, it's a big hole,
60,000
and they let
truckloads.
people put junk in it. So there's concrete and dirt. There's just all kinds of stuff that's been dumped in there over the years.
All right. Is there
Tom,
any?
well, I did have one more question. So in your cover sheet, Tom, it says though that we're not under any obligation to allow the waste pit at this time. So has GDOT or Astra asked for this yet, or we're just kind of trying to get ahead of this, or?
We're not under any obligation to do it. I'm recommending it, but even if you approve this, what's gonna happen is they're gonna go to GDOT for approval, so this may all be moot.
Okay. Okay.
And even if GDOT approves it, we're still not on the hook to do anything.
Right.
You know, so we'll come back and revisit this after GDOT decides if they're gonna approve it or not.
All right. Any objection to making this consent number 22? All right. Let's, do we have anybody signed up for public comments? Okay. Is there anybody here who would like to speak in public comments? All right, seeing none, I'll close public comments. I'm going to review the consent agenda as I have it. When I finish, yes, ma'am. Tell me what it is, because I forgot. Oh, that's right. Okay. Yes, come on up. Were you able to get the information? Yes. All right, wonderful. This will be real quick, guys.
Should be quick. So Mirror Lake HOA is hoping to host an event on Memorial Day weekend, and they'd like to have a food truck there. The food truck is called the Highway Cafe. So this came up yesterday. In our ordinance, I quoted it there, mobile food vendors may be permitted subject to the approval of a mobile food vendor permit by the mayor and city council and the presentation of written permission from the property owner. So they have submitted all that. They still need to get a food service permit, but this company has had food trucks before and has done that. So I'm recommending that council approve it contingent on that being successful, getting a food service permit by next Friday. So we wouldn't issue the permit until that is done. Again, it's one day at the Mirror Lake HOA. And like I said, this all started yesterday, so it's a quick turnaround, but they got all the application stuff to us today except for the food service permit.
Right. Okay. So this came to us really late yesterday, and we were going to just put it on the next agenda, but they need it too quick. So as a courtesy, we thought we'd go ahead and do this today. So is there any questions from anybody? All right, Ms. McPherson.
Just to thank you. I mean, part of these people are my constituents, but a bunch of us have people in Mirror Lake. No matter who it is, I just like the fact that we weren't too bureaucratic. Somebody needs something, and y'all put in the effort to try to make it happen for the citizens to do a nice event in their neighborhood. And I just like that. That's something local government can do that sometimes bigger levels up, forget it. It's just never going to happen. But we don't, it's not like, oh, sorry, you missed a deadline. You're out of here. We actually made an effort to assist them on this, and I appreciate that. So thank you. Thank you for the staff members that did that.
May 29th, Memorial Day.
Yes, sir. Mr. Carter.
Will you create an item so that we can at least see what's going on for the 6 o'clock meeting?
Sure.
Yeah, let's make this A6.
Okay.
If you'll do that, and then I'll make, if there are no objections, what will become A6, consent number 23. Okay. All right. I will go over. Thank you, Sarah. I'll go over the consent agenda as I have it, and then at the end of that, we'll see if there are any objections.
What are we calling this? The food?
Okay. All right. Consent number 1. Reappointment of Claudia Best to the, what is it actually called? Carroll County Library Board. All right. Consent number 1, reappointment Claudia Best to the Carroll County Library Board. Consent number 2, National Public Works Week proclamation. Consent number 3, setting the date for accepting applications for package stores. Consent number 4, ballot for GMA's District 4 officers. Consent number 5, Powell Park flooring replacement. Consent number 6, appointment of 2 new members to the Main Street Advisory Board, Melissa Hill and Julie Moore. Consent number 7, community grant application, Thomas A. Dorsey Birthplace and Gospel Heritage Festival, Inc. Consent number 8, community grant application, Alzheimer's Group of Carroll County. Consent number 9, community grant application, Villa Rica Lions Club. Consent number 10, Motorola portable radios. Consent number 11, solid waste services, operational and financial assessment. Consent number 12, Cowan's Lake improvements, change order number 1. Consent number 13, dam repair development report. Consent number 14, purchase of distribution isolation valves. Consent number 15, water plant basin repair. Consent number 16, west plant supervisory control and data acquisition upgrade. Consent number 17, to approve the updated customer sanitation rates due to GFL's 5.2% rate increase based on the Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers. Consent number 18, fiscal year 23 budget amendment number 154 through 155. Consent number 19, execution of the GDOT project framework agreement, downtown streetscape project. Consent number 20, grant application for LMIG funds. Consent number 21, utility aid for Connors Road roundabout. Consent number 22, waste pit easement agreement. And consent number 23, May 29th, food truck permits. Does anybody hear anything different?
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Just to clarify, on consent 6, you had said that the name of the new members was Melissa Hill and Julie Moore, but those are the two persons
who
being,
came off.
yes.
Right,
So it's
strike
Candy
that.
Wilson and Landon Prather.
All right. Say those names again.
Candy Wilson and Landon Prather. Landon Prather. He's my neighbor
the
in my
art
office,
gallery.
actually, but.
All right. Ladies, did you get that? Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay. Tom, you have anything? David, anything? All right.